Hola a todas y todos, gracias por asistir a nuestra charla Who Made My Cotton. Soy Anne Oudard, soy diseñadora de jeans en freelance. Trabajo para marcas francesas y además de esto me apasiona entender cómo funciona nuestra industria del denim y cómo podemos mejorar nuestra manera de producir jeans. Estoy aquí con mi compañera Annie Wells de la plataforma Simply Suzette.
Hola, estoy encantada de estar aquí con ustedes.
Y os vamos a presentar nuestra investigación sobre la trazabilidad del algodón en la industria del denim. Volvemos después para contestar a todas sus preguntas.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us live. As Anna and I just discussed, we are on a quest to uncover the roadblocks and solutions in the denim industry for full cotton traceability. So working our way down the supply chain, we started by interviewing denim professionals in the business of buying fabric. And in part 2 of this qualitative research study, we are following up with those in the business of making denim fabric. So just quickly, we will go over why traceability matters, the roadblocks to full cotton traceability, the solutions to full traceability, as well as a Q&A at the end for any questions that you may have.
So as I was saying in presenting myself, I've been working as a denim designer for over 10 years now, and never in my career have I managed to connect the jeans that I design to the people growing the cotton that they're made of. When I shared this experience with other designers, I realized that we were all stuck with the same question, unable to figure out who made my cotton.
And this research study really came out of a conversation between Anne and I when Anne was expressing these exact frustrations with the lack of information that she could receive about the cotton provenance. And me being a sustainability geek, I wanted to also dig deeper. So we devised a research study to explore the cotton supply chain with the amazing support of Marcia from Cotton Diaries. One thing we really wanted to point out, though, that is the study is not meant to name and shame anyone, but to really understand the reasons preventing the denim industry from seeing clear through its supply chain. So first up, why traceability matters. So far, we've spoken to brands, retailers, and denim mills, and the commonality between all of these players for why they wanted to trace their cotton back was the need for accurate data and gathering impact data, fair working conditions for farmers and field workers, and ensuring that the social impacts are truly positive, and of course, fighting against greenwashing, and also getting ready for new legislation that's on the rise.
Roadblocks to full cotton traceability. So when asking around why cotton is so hard to trace, the common answer is it's complicated. And while tracing technologies are becoming more and more accessible, it seems like the opacity in the cotton supply chain goes beyond a lack of technological tools. We're approaching the challenge of tracing cotton in a more holistic way, taking into account social, structural, and financial factors, making our way into the supply chain from the denim brands to the cotton fields.
So we started out by interviewing designers, product developers, and denim professionals at the brand and retailer level. And the roadblocks that we found were the company structure, division of labor, the limits of certifications, and time of money. So we'll dive deep into each one of these things, starting first with the company structure and division of labor. So what we found a lot of the times is that employees are assigned to a very specific set of tasks and tend to work in silos. That means information is not always passed on and sometimes gets lost within the companies. For larger brands, someone designing with the best intentions might get hit down the line of commands when a sourcing decision gets changed. For example, a designer might source a farm to fabric denim supplier and think their full design and intentions are going into production. Meanwhile, a buying colleague has switched the fabric for a more cost-effective option down the line. Another point that we did see is that many companies, the CSR departments are more tied to the marketing departments than the actual production teams. But of course, in smaller teams, there is more collaborative work going on. But the downfall with that is that with smaller teams come very large to-do lists as well.
The limits of certifications. Our research shows that certifications play an important role and are one of the most common systems used by brands for cotton traceability measures. Most of the designers we spoke to said that the transaction certificates for organic cotton were the best way for them to know the origin of the cotton in the denim they bought. While certifications are a first step towards more traceability, frauds and concerns about labor condition within certified cotton supply chain keep bursting at a large scale. The fact that cotton is grown in so many countries, so many farm sizes, and so many different soil qualities lead to the conclusion that not one certification program can cover nor be adapted to the specific need of each farm and farm worker. Another limit to certifications is their cost.
So time and resources have been a constant pain point for everyone. Time and time again, we hear this, especially for the small to medium-sized brands that are ahead of the curve in terms of environmental and social responsibility. But we often heard from small sustainability teams, often consisting of only one person, that we haven't gotten there yet. We don't have the manpower needed or the resources to fund it. So that is one major roadblock that we have heard from everyone in this study. So phase 2 of our research moved on to interviewing denim mills who are involved in the actual purchasing of cotton. From our discussions with denim mills, we identified 2 main areas where traceability gets tricky. So this we see is in tier 3 and tier 4, and we'll dive deep into where exactly this gets confusing. So first up is importing cotton and the middlemen that are involved. The fact that spinners have to import cotton from faraway countries and for that to go through agents and middlemen makes it more difficult for denim mills to keep track of the cotton's provenance. Going through the cotton purchasing process, many different middlemen assist in the buying process. There are cotton merchants, brokers, and ginners involved in selling mills cotton who source the raw materials from different farms. Not to mention importers that source cotton globally depend on the quality needs from each mill and their requirements. The more cooks in the kitchen, the more difficult it gets to find the original source, as we might have experience with. But things get even more complex at the gin, as one ginner can gather cotton from hundreds of small cotton farms. One bale of cotton can actually contain cotton from 300 to 500 different farmers, which is insane to think about. So when sourcing from regions with thousands of smallholder farms, we're often stopped at the ginner. However, with the right questions and resources, some mills do feel confident that they can work to find further information from the ginner suppliers.
And another step where traceability gets tricky is at the yarn spinning level during the blending process. So once the cotton has arrived at the spinning mill, it's blended with cotton from other origins and specifications to reach an average staple length that the spinning machines are calibrated for. This blending step is commonly stated as a reason for traceability loss. But when discussing with mills, we learned that it is technically possible to better monitor this blending process and collect the data on the different cotton fibers blended into the yarn. The reasons we identified for why this is not happening are: 1, the additional cost for training and allocating time to an employee in charge of this task, and 2, because from one season to another, the blend might vary, and some mills expressed concerns that their client might question the quality of the yarn if they notice a change in its composition. They also seem to be worried that if this was revealed, this information could be used as leverage for price negotiation. This might be why some mills would rather keep this information confidential.
So now that we've got an understanding of the cotton purchasing process a little bit and where traceability gets tricky, the roadblocks we did commonly hear from mills were, if no one asks, why bother? Partnering with farmers, scaling pilot programs, and the financial investment required. So unfortunately, the question is still asked, if no one asks, why bother? Even though it may seem like transparency is becoming the norm in brand sustainability endeavors, we are still far from full supply chain transparency and traceability. We found that most brands are simply not asking their suppliers for farm level data or provenance. And only 1 out of the 10 mills interviewed reported that most of their brands they supplied to are asking for farm to shelf traceability. Because the vast amount of resources it takes to reach full cost and cotton traceability, if no one is asking for it, mills are just not prioritizing it at the moment.
And despite this surprisingly low interest in knowing where the cotton comes from, the demand for organic cotton is increasing and supply cannot keep up with the demand. So this has led many mills to set up their own direct farm programs, helping them switch from conventional to organic while ensuring traceability. However, from a mill's perspective, convincing farmers to transition to organic is often a challenge. Some farmers are already profiting from their conventional ways, and it's hard to convince them to take the risk of change. Communication with farmers also seems to be a significant inhibitor. Many of the methods we have seen require tech-savvy farmers who need extensive training on inputting data. Other methods just aren't made for a multitude of smallholder farmers, but are intended for an industrial scale farm. We must also keep in mind that farmers aren't paid by the hour of work, but by the weight of cotton they produce. Spending time collecting data is not profitable for them unless the price of their cotton increases significantly.
Scaling pilot programs. So there is a large discrepancy, but we can see a huge difference in brands' behaviors depending on a mill's market positioning. However, there are diamonds in the rough who ask their suppliers for further information, and this is often where these pilot projects are born. Initial pilot programs could be scaled throughout their local network of farmers, but going beyond that would take an enormous amount of resources, such as the labor needed to train farmers and visit farmers, and the finances to support farmers' well-being. Another thing we discovered was that methods are more scalable in some countries than other and create more inequalities between farmers across the globe. The unequal access to resources and technologies and the wide spectrum of business sizes might favor the already advanced ones instead of enabling smaller farms to be more resilient.
And last but not least, financial investment. The additional work involved in implementing traceable programs to monitor and pass on cotton data has to be fairly retributed, and therefore it will impact the price of the cotton, the denim fabric, and the jeans. The risk for losing competitiveness is obviously a big concern for all parties. As we talk to mills, we realize that they bear most of these costs, drawing them from their CSR and operational budgets. While a more sustainable brand image can justify a price increase, it all goes down to companies' political decisions on how they should invest their money.
Moving on to the solutions. So some of the solutions that we discovered through the interviews that we did were teaming up with mills, direct to farm and nearshoring, farmer-centric programs, and tracing technology. So teaming up with mills, some mills have found co-investments via brand partners have been a good solution to this, but the brands that invest the most into sustainable programs such as traceable cotton are not generally the biggest ones. Their cotton consumption limits their investment and can only allow them to set up these pilot programs. But while setting up game-changing methods, pilot programs in partnership with small to medium brands can only do so much. But when we asked the question, what if $1 billion fashion brand would finance these programs? Many mills seem confident that it would enable them to extend these practices to their whole cotton sourcing supply chain. However, there were reservations regarding brand partnerships. They feared that they would become beholden to a brand and prefer to self-invest and keep their independence. They would rather receive guaranteed orders from their customers to keep jobs for their workers. And another way they found to finance innovation is to negotiate exclusivity with brands for a certain amount of time, ensuring their R&D costs are partially covered.
Direct farm and nearshoring. Visiting the cotton farms regularly is an essential enabler for transparency, and mills based in cotton growing countries can benefit significantly from this advantage. Direct to farm is also a way to ensure consistency in the cotton quality that mills are buying. A few mills have explained that they have received bales that were not matching the required specification they had ordered. Others mentioned bale contaminated with plastic bits from the plastic bags used to harvest the cotton. We also heard of cotton's origins not corresponding to the original mill's request, probably because of cotton shortage troubles. Working hand in hand with farmers can allow mills to anticipate and resolve quality issues and secure supplies. Several denim mills are working on direct-to-farm programs to ensure the well-being of their farmers, gather impact data, and give their customers full trust behind their cotton claims. We give more details on these programs in our report.
And directly tying into these direct-to-farm programs are farmer-centric programs. So by reconnecting with the farmers, denim mills are enabled to really get involved directly into their working conditions. Some of the most advanced traceability programs have allowed the birth of programs focused on working conditions on the cotton field. And as Anne mentioned, we'd love for you to dive deeper into the report to see some of these great examples. But also, most cotton certifications missed out on the social aspects of farming, which led these companies to start their own programs that go beyond just farmer safety. Some programs include organic farming training, accessible accounting softwares, setting up health facilities, help broker deals between farmers and ginners, and more.
Tracing technologies. Tracing technology is a particularly important tool when nearshoring is impossible, or when mills are buying yarn from an external spinner. From supply chain mapping programs that centralize suppliers' information and certificates to traceable pigment technologies and fiber DNA testing, the technological solutions for a fully traceable cotton are contributing to a more transparent supply chain with more reliable and secured information. Upcoming governmental policies in Europe and the US should also add more pressure onto retailers that will soon have to display more information on their clothing tags. These upcoming laws are already pushing brands to implement tracing technologies to optimize their processes. These technological tools have to go hand in hand with educating and training teams to understand the importance and stakes of traceability.
So as we mentioned, we would love for you to download the reports actually, and dive deep into a lot of the great examples that mills and brands are currently doing in order to achieve cotton traceability, ensure a positive social impact, and really start gathering impact data and fight greenwashing. So you can scan the QR code here. We'll give you a second to do that. And up next.
So up next is going to be the cotton merchants. In the next step of our research on Who Made My Cotton, we will consult cotton merchants to understand better their role in the cotton supply chain and how they picture a future of radical cotton traceability.
So if any of you know any contacts that you think might be helpful, please do get in touch. And we will now open it up for Q&A.
La verdad es increíble. First in Spanish and then in English. Es increíble ver que hay gente que solamente hace investigación porque realmente tiene ganas de saber la respuesta. Y entendiste. Que la verdad, uno muchas veces se lo toma el tiempo porque su casilla está llena de mails, no tiene tiempo de estar con teléfono, con el WhatsApp, tenemos multicanales ahora y no tenemos realmente tiempo de investigar las procedencias de nada. Y creo que todo eso es una excusa, porque cuando vemos trabajos así de gente que está produciendo, que trabaja designer, freelancer con otras marcas, que también tiene limitaciones y compromisos de entrega y todo, mismo así se organiza, no solamente porque tiene curiosidad de saber la respuesta, pero porque sabe que eso puede cambiar el mercado, es increíble. Now, I was saying that it's amazing understand that the research is so important for our industry. Sometimes you have like some excuse that, oh, I don't have time, I have some production to do, and I have some supply to deliver. But when you have really time to understand the traceability and why this coming from, you can change everything.
Totally.
Yeah, thank you both for doing this work for us, because it's important just to be like the start. If you start, it's much easy for us doing the rest. So, and I don't know if we have a question in here. Oh yeah, we have. I have one question. There is Cotton Diaries acting in Latin America market.
In the market. So Cotton Diaries is a global community of anyone in the cotton supply chain. It is global. It's a global community. And I do believe that there are members in South America as well, actively. But we can also connect you with a Cotton Diaries representative if anyone is looking to get connected or get involved with cotton research and sharing stories of cotton. So please let us know. We had our emails on screen there, but I can also put them in the chat as well for anyone that does want to get in touch, because there is, the community is wonderful and we're all there to support each other in our cotton endeavors. So.
Perfect. So, a quien preguntó cómo estar ahí contactando a ellos. Ellos tienen su canal de comunicación, entren en el sitio. Yo puse ahí, la verdad, los 2 mails, pero les puedo compartir el sitio también. Pero para que ustedes sepan que nosotros, por ejemplo, we have like a ARA. It's a Argentinian BCI. In Brazil, you have a BRAPA, that's a Brazilian BCI, for example. I think that's all certification must be from inside us. Like we have to do the change. No, because there somebody is going to take in your test. It's like, okay, that's good, that's good, but you have to change your structure inside. So that's good.
Yeah, totally. It's the point. It's why are you doing this? Why do you want this information? It's not just to share the numbers with the audience or your community. It's to really make changes and try and improve those numbers.
Sometimes I talked with some friends, a closer one, and I said, it's not a sticker album. You don't have to have anything. You have to have everything right inside your fabric. So then you can have 1 or 2 or whatever you want. But the thing is your mentality, and for sure. So
yeah, and also we've seen that some certificates, they don't cover everything. And for instance, you have cost certificates that don't cover the social aspects on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only once you know that and once you are able to reach to these people that you can actually do something to improve their working conditions.
Perfecto. Bueno, ellas están diciendo que sí, Cotton Diaries pueden, ahí Annie puso en el chat todos los mails para que ustedes puedan tener. Que se pueden contactar con ellos y que la idea es realmente mantener ese contacto y ver qué nosotros podemos cambiar. Es a través de la comunicación, de la charla. Me parece bárbaro. And, no pongan acá en el chat privado mío las preguntas. Pueden poner directamente el chat. Because somebody is asking me private. And I said, no. So, and another question is... How the cotton traceability is achieved For example, just have us like a simple example if you want to.
How is cotton traceability achieved? Well, we could start with an example from a pilot program and one of the more direct-to-farm options. So when a brand partners with a mill and discusses the fact that they want to have a relationship with the farmers, this is an opportunity where a brand can connect through the mill's suppliers and try and find a direct connection to the farmer. This way it eliminates any of the middleman and you have a direct relationship with your actual farmer. You can go and visit the farmer and you can really understand what their challenges are, what their needs are, and really understand what you can do to help them achieve their goals, also in terms of what they're looking for out of their jobs as a farmer, and also start to look at your physical data or your accurate data. That way you have your direct control over what you are measuring and what you want to do with that information. But there are a few specific brands that have some pilot programs out there. Specifically, Outland Denim is a great one, and Nudie Jeans. Both have set up some programs in a specific region in Turkey that is not necessarily gathering impact data or environmental data, but they've set up basically a hotline for farmers to understand their challenges in one specific region. So rather than going direct to one farm, they're looking at a whole entire region of farmers. So that's also in the report that we would recommend you diving deeper into and understanding the whole project. It's called SAG Slam, that project. And any other examples you want to share quickly?
No, but I just wanted to say that basically the first step is to ask questions, and the common denominator that we found when talking with brands that had managed to trace their cotton was that they had built strong and trustful relationships with their suppliers. And it's only once you have that kind of relationships that you can go further. So it's really about like human connection, trust. And long-lasting relationships, but also about asking questions.
Yeah.
And I can also see there's a question about
you already answered.
like if it was difficult. To be honest, we were really surprised when we started asking questions to mills. We were like happily surprised that they gave us so much information. They shared freely all they could share about the cotton origins.
They're also invested in trying to do the best they can. So they want to share what they're doing transparently. And to preface it a little bit, though, we were speaking to maybe some of the brands that are already considered sustainable, and so it did affect some of the answers that we got. But in terms of mills, we did just try to speak to someone from every region of the world, and get a really well-rounded answer in terms of that. And everyone was very nice and willing to share.
Yeah, and it's good if we start to demand from them this information, because sometimes like if nobody asks, why I have to change my standard in here. But if you start to push them, it's good, because everyone can have like small change to be a big one. So I'm going to translate to them just a little bit what we have here. Nada, preguntamos un poco cómo se hace la trazabilidad y ella empieza diciendo que es a través de la charla con la gente, preguntando, cuestionando, siendo abierto para crear, sí, un vínculo y una honestidad con con esa persona que hace la plantación, con la persona que hace la cosecha, con la persona que después entregue el algodón. Y después también dijo que nada, es a través de que ellas tuvieron experiencias donde preguntaban, la persona estaba súper abierta en contestar. Entonces eso creo que es un trauma que uno tenía de una antigua forma de empresas, que ya no es más así. Entonces, nada, pongámonos a cuestionar, a hablar, a sentar en una mesa, a crear ese vínculo para fortalecer la industria y para que nosotros mismos podamos salir vencedores de todas esas etapas que nos parecen difíciles, pero era un old school company, no es más del mismo formato. Así que, bueno, no, estamos acá en el tiempo. I want to thank you both for the research, the questioning that helped us so much for the denim community, I think. But thank you for sharing with Latin America, because we are all working to reach the common denominator. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Anna.
for having us. And if there are any other questions, yeah, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you. Si alguien más quiere preguntar, pongan en el chat y yo me voy a mandar a ellos. Thank you. Have a nice day over there. Bye bye.